All right. Hello, everybody. KV Chief Meteorologist Hunter Williams here with you for our nightly extended update on the forecast. I know that last night into early this morning, really it depends on where you live. In Austin, there wasn't a ton of rain. Likewise, for most of the I-35 corridor, wasn't a ton of action. But across the hill country, there was some beneficial rain and some stormy weather. Then it's been kind of a lull today. This active weather pattern, though, is going to continue. Our next round is coming in overnight into the early morning. Again, I think this will be one where it's heaviest in the hill country, but even in Austin, a higher chance this go round that some rain makes it in. Then as we go through the day on Wednesday, through the day on Thursday, the hill country will start to trend drier, and areas along and east of I-35, including the Austin area, will get into the core rain chances. So if you haven't seen much rain yet, just hold on. Again, we have more waves of rain and storms that are still in the forecast over the next couple of days. All right, live view outside. This is our Kalahari cam looking live at Round Rock. Obviously, it is sunny and it's warm. As I mentioned, storms are going to move into the hill country overnight tonight. In fact, here in a moment, we'll go through some of the high-res data. I actually think the timing could be speeding up a little bit, and we could see evidence of this as the complex is already formed to our west. We can see how far away it is. Then rain chances for areas along and east of I-35, including Austin, are going to be increasing as we go through Wednesday and through Thursday. Again, I think across the hill country, once we get past this round tonight, it's going to be less rain for the hill country, more for eastern areas. Flood potential and low and severe weather threat is going to continue. I think we all know at this point that we really need the rain, but we just need to be aware. There could be some flooding concerns. There could be some severe weather concerns as we go over the next couple of days. Temperatures right now starting to cool down. They actually rebounded into the 90s earlier today. Now it is 86 for Camp Mabry, 87 at the airport, dew point 69, so a little feels like effect. It's warm, it's muggy. We have all the ingredients for some rain. Feels like temperatures outside, feels like 100 right now in LaGrange, feels like 93 in Bastrop, still feels like 90 as I mentioned in Austin. Okay, so right now here in our K-View area, there's nothing going on, right? But this is the batch of rain and storms that we'll watch, and then behind it there's actually another one which is coming out of southern New Mexico. But I think first up, this is going to be what we watch. Some of these down around Del Rio, as you can see, are severe. They're basically going due east. Those would be kind of more on track to stay just south of our area. But this stuff is kind of growing. This is not severe right now, but we don't want severe weather. We just want the rain. And this is the type of rain that is on track to move into our area later on tonight. Just measuring it out, going old school, the rain's about 100 miles west of the Mason County, Gillespie County western line. So the entrance to our KVU area. So look, earlier I was thinking it might not be till after 2 a.m. that rain starts to move in, but these are moving 30 to 40 miles per hour. So look, as we go over the next 3 to 4 hours, it could be 11 o'clock midnight as some of this stuff is already starting to come into our KVU area. Severe weather concern. It's going to be highest for areas to our west. Again, we've got those warnings going on around Del Rio. There's a severe thunderstorm watch for those areas, and it's lower, but it's not zero. In the KVU area, level 1 risk, that will take us through the rest of tonight. I don't really have a tornado concern, but there could be a storm kind of like yesterday. A storm could pulse up and briefly produce some hail. Then also some of these storms are producing some gusty winds. Here's how I see the rain coverage just with the round that's coming in tonight. It is likely that we're going to have pretty widespread rain here across the hill country, is 70%. I have a 50% in the forecast for Austin right now, with the idea being, like what happened last night, the stuff is weakening as it moves into the Metro and I-35 corridor, but I'm tempted to kind of raise this up a little bit just because that complex is already formed. It's going to be able to keep kind of chugging along while we still have some daylight, we still have some better energy, and then kind of move into our area through the overnight. So I think over much of the I-35 corridor, there'll be at least some sort of rain. Then it drops down lower as you go east of I-35. But again, this is just for tonight. Then as we go through the day on Wednesday, things are going to be ramping up for the eastern half of our KVU area. So here's that new data. Here's the time, midnight. At that point, rain is moving in first over our western hill country areas, Mason, Gillespie County, and the Fredericksburg area. So there's midnight. Let's go about 2 hours at a time. Here's 2. At that point, watching into parts of Blanco, into Llano. This could be some heavier stuff going into Gillespie, into Mason County. Here's 3, here's 4. At that point, this model, hey, this would be pretty good for prospects of rain in the metro, says rain is moving in, especially over Hayes County, into parts of Travis, into parts of Williamson County, and then back behind it. This would be good, just soaking rain that we need across the hill country. We'll keep going into 6. At that point, this round kind of winding down. So again, it's overnight into the early morning hours of Wednesday. This is 6 a.m. Then as we go into 10 or 11, a little bit of a lull, but then this is the last frame of the 18-hour version of this model, and it's starting to punch up some new showers and storms again. So now let me switch. This is same model, but the extended version of it. And you can see after that round weakens in the morning, the extended model says as we go into lunchtime, 1, 2 o'clock, here comes more rain and storm activity developing. And this time, as I mentioned, the round tonight, I do think will be heaviest across the hill country, but all the rounds after that, I think are going to be heaviest along and east of I-35. So there's 2 o'clock, keep going into 7, 8, 9. We keep going through the evening into the overnight. Rain storm chances are going to continue. Here's 4 a.m. on Thursday along east of I-35. Stormy weather could be ongoing. This looks kind of hit or miss, but it's just waves of rain and storms. And then as we go through Thursday, this model says, hey, we have slow moving heavy downpours, which are developing especially over Williamson, into eastern Travis, into Bastrop, into Lee, and into Milam counties. And again, I think tonight, with the forward motion of it, could there be some minor flooding across the hill country? Certainly. I think the flood threat is going to increase through the day Wednesday, through Wednesday night, and into Thursday. And it's going to increase for areas along and east of I-35. That's what I'm thinking right now. So that's the last frame of that model, which is 1 p.m. on Thursday. Here's kind of the bigger picture view. These are the more broad models, the global models. But basically, we have a 70% chance for rain in the forecast on Wednesday. Kind of multiple rounds. We're going to have some rain around in the early morning, a little bit of a break, then ramping up again for the afternoon into Wednesday night. Thursday, still a 60 to 70% chance for rain and storms. Then Friday, Saturday, Sunday, it's definitely not like a completely dry forecast, but it's more of like a pop-up situation. So 40% Friday, Saturday 30, Sunday 20, and then even though it's more hit or miss, there still could be some localized heavy rain and flooding. Even as we go into the weekend, it's just not going to be as widespread. So now let's talk rainfall totals, and we'll go through a couple of the models here. This is the 7-day rainfall from the Weather Prediction Center off of their in-house model. I showed this to you yesterday, and it continues to be very aggressive with, you can see the scale. It's got most of us say 2 to 4 inches of rain. So including the rain that we have already had the past day, I think most of us end up in this range, in this 1 to 3 inch range as we go over the next couple of days. But increasingly, I do think there will be pockets of 3 to 6, especially along and east of I-35. Where those pockets develop, there will be the risk for flooding, and especially if that becomes more widespread, as some models are hinting at, then obviously the flood threat could ramp up. So again, this is what I have in the forecast. This is what I think will happen. 1 to 3 inches of rain, widespread pockets, 3 to 6. Now let's flip over there, and I want to show you some of the new model data coming in. So these are the totals over the next 48 hours from both of our high-res models. And again, you get the idea. There's some more rain on the way for the hill country, but action is kind of shifting east. The HRRR model, that high-res rapid refresh, has another half inch, 2 inches on the way for parts of the hill country. But then quickly, Williamson County into the eastern areas says, hey, if we get slow-moving, heavy training storms, we could be looking at 3 to 5 inches plus of rain. And likewise, the graph model even brings those type of rainfall totals into the Austin area. I mean, look at that. It's showing maybe even there's a foot of rain over parts of Fayette County. Again, I think that both of these models are overdone, which is why my forecast is for 1 to 3 in pockets of 3 to 6. But I just wanted to show you this data because, if we start getting into the afternoon tomorrow and we've got this big slow-moving blob of rain over these eastern areas, then maybe we'll need to up the rainfall forecast. So we need rain, but just want to give you a heads up. The flood potential is going to be there over the next couple of days. My forecast for tonight in town's about a 50%, say 50 to 60. It's higher than that across the hill country. We'll drop down to 72, especially as you go west of I-35. There will be at least low-end severe weather potential and low-end risk for flooding as we go into tonight. Then tomorrow it goes up to 70%, so we'll have that round that continues into the morning, then weakens. Then as we go into the second part of the day into tomorrow night, rain chances increase 70%, 87. There still is going to be the risk for some severe weather, and increasingly that flood threat is going to develop, especially for areas along and east of I-35. This is my 7-day forecast of 50% tonight, a 70% tomorrow. With more rain around, it will actually stay in the 80s, I think, tomorrow. In fact, that 87 depending on how much rain is around in the afternoon, might actually be high. Could end up being in the low 80s. A 60% Wednesday night into early Thursday, then a 60% continues through the day on Thursday, and still on Thursday with the rain around, we're still in the 80s. And then as we go Friday, Saturday, Sunday, there's rain chances. There's a rain chance on every day on the 7-day forecast, but the rain chances will become more hit or miss. There could be maybe a locally strong storm, maybe some locally heavy rain. It's just going to be spotty. In some areas will just be dry and hot, what you expect in June. So high temperatures will respond. It will be 92 on Friday. Saturday it will be 92. Sunday 93. Then as we go into early next week, Monday, Tuesday, still kind of small, 20% rain chances. High temperatures will be in the mid 90s. So look, that's what we're tracking for you. We appreciate everybody joining us here on KVU Plus and on YouTube Live and all of our streaming platforms. Just one other graphic I want to show you real quick just to walk you through the outlook. So this is the 3-day flood outlook. As you can see, basically through the rest of tonight, through Wednesday, through Thursday, it's a level 2 flood threat. The Weather Prediction Center in their discussions, they were hinting that, hey, maybe especially for Wednesday or Thursday, maybe there could be an upgrade to a moderate risk. I could see that maybe in our eastern areas, but for now it's that level 2 risk. And then also, as I mentioned, I think flooding is probably the main thing, but there also could be some strong storms. So I do want to give you an update on the situation with just the severe weather outlooks. Here's our severe weather outlook through the rest of tonight. It's going to be highest out west. Here's the outlook for tomorrow, level 1 area wide. And then here's the outlook for Thursday, level 1 area wide. So I think you get the idea. It's going to be an active weather pattern. It won't be raining constantly for the next 3 days or so, but we're going to have multiple rounds of rain and storms. And increasingly, as we get multiple of these rounds, the flood threat is going to increase, and that will include over parts of the I-35 corridor, the metro, and areas to the east that are not yet getting much of the rain. So that is an update. It is 7:16. I'm going to take a break here for about the next 2.5 hours. Then we're going to have all the fresh data coming in updated models and all that we'll have on our newscast at 10. Then we'll see how early the stuff is to arrive. If we need to, we'll go right into KVU Plus coverage after the 10 o'clock. If not, KC will be able to start that stream when she gets in the morning. But either way, you guys know the drill. If we have active weather moving in, we will have updates here on KVU Plus. So we appreciate all of y'all joining us. Y'all have a good rest of your night. We will see you for KVU News at 10 coming up in just a little bit.